Bloomer versus Shauger, April 12, 2012, in the Supreme Court of New York, Appellate Division, 3rd Department. This case is one where the plaintiff, Robert Bloomer, is trying to sue for damages caused and negligence caused by the defendant, Christine Shauger. The owner defendant, Christine Shauger, acquired this kind of sums it up. The owner defendant, Christine Shauger, acquired two quarter horses who had been living. They were companions for more than 2 decades, and by all accounts would become extremely agitated whenever they were separated from one another. One of the horses, Topper, fell ill, and the owner, Shauger, arranged to have him put down inside the paddocks in full view of Whiskey. Shortly thereafter, the owner had her nephew assist her in burying the horse again in front of Whiskey. When the neighbor came home, he learned of the horse's passing and offered to volunteer to help finish digging the grave, as Christine and her nephew weren't able to. Whiskey was the whole time. Whiskey is frantically pacing back and forth, prompting Shauger to try to leave where they were burying the horse at and go find a lead line or something to hold the horse to keep him out of the way and keep him safe and keep everybody safe. The neighbor, once he finished digging the hole, or while he waited on the Shauger to go get the lead line, he was patting Whiskey and calming him down, and Shauger came up and tried to attach the lead line to Whiskey, and it spooked him, and in the act of putting the lead line on, when Bloomer for some reason had a hold of the halter, it caught his finger and did some damage to his finger, which he had to have surgery for, either to get put back on or fixed or however. So the appellate court noted that it was constrained to the view matter solely on the context of strict liability. The horse's behavior, which was not atypical, it wasn't unusual or regular, yet there was no behavior that resulted in the injury. It wasn't the behavior that directly resulted in the injury, because, given he was calming the horse down, but he should have known, you really don't want to be given a horse or anything, you do not want to put your hands anywhere that can be injured. So, and nor did the horse's history of avoiding the lead line. Being the neighbor, they could have gave a heads up, but they didn't. And it goes on to say in New York that it's the only state in the nation that rejects the rule regarding the owner's negligence as a ground for liability arising from the dangerous acts of animals. So that was a loophole that kind of, in my opinion, got Shauger out of a bind, because he knew the horse was scared of lead lines, yet failed to tell the neighbor so, even in attempting to hook up the horse to the lead line whenever neighbor Bloomer was still petting the horse and condoling the horse. And yet, given this rule, the court ruled in favor of the defendant and didn't have to pay, or didn't see him as liable for the medical expenses. And then once it was reviewed, it was appealed. That decision was appealed by Bloomer, and the judge once again ruled in favor of the defendant, yet wrote that she did disagree, and once again it was appealed. And so the last thing that I was able to gather from this was that Bloomer did receive compensation finally, and it took appeals, but he finally figured out given the loophole of things, I mean, that's not what the law was, and that's not what that rule was intended for. And given the owner's knowledge of the way the horse acted, he should have. She was liable, given that she knew the circumstances and she knew that there would have been a better way to handle that. Maybe asking Bloomer to step back, or giving Bloomer the lead line. But it didn't happen that way, and that is the action that occurred.